Tea Party activists keeping a close eye on the new Congress as Republican freshmen prepare to get down to business this week. They're going as far as putting up these ads in airports reading, "Newly elected member of Congress, to-do list. 1. Find office. 2. Cut spending. Keep your promise." The goal is to keep the new members focused on the Tea Party's priorities. Joining us now to talk about it, Bob Edgar, former Democratic Pennsylvania congressman and president of Common Cause. Congressman, great to have you today.
Good to be with you.
All right, so who is the Tea Party going to put more pressure on, the GOP establishment or Democrats in the White House?
I think it's going to be a very mixed bag. As you know, I got elected to Congress in something similar to the Tea Party back in 1974. It was the Watergate baby class. And I think there are good signs that the anger and energy of the Tea Party will bring reform, have the possibility of some fresh ideas. But I worry that money here in Washington will corrode the system, and some of the old-time leadership, particularly in the Republican Party, is going to taint what the hopeful Tea Party movement is hoping to do. So I think it's going to be a mixed bag. As a young congressman, I know how important it is to keep hold of your principle and your ideas, but I'm afraid that the issues of reform will take a back seat to business as usual. Even in the transition during the lame duck session, when the new members weren't allowed to vote, they were being hosted and given a great deal of honor by special interest groups, writing checks for them, particularly those corporations that had not helped them in their election. So I worry that some of these new faces, some of these new people who have come with new ideas will be tainted very quickly by the old broken system here in Washington. Common Cause is working to try to help them understand that reform should be bipartisan and that money is corroding the existing system.
Do you think that they'll have any better luck in making this transition simply by the fact that they aren't just 2 or 3 people from a fringe group? I mean, there are now dozens, whether they're currently in Congress or newly elected, who identify with this Tea Party caucus. Will that give them more power, the sticking together effect?
I think at first it will give them enormous power. But as the months go on, as it gets closer to the next election, as they begin to take contributions from special interest groups, as they get divided into their committees and subcommittees, I think you're going to see a diminishing of that power, as we saw back in 1975-76, when a fresh group of congressmen came. In my case, I was only 31, elected with no experience. And fortunately, I was able to hold on to my principles, but many of my colleagues began to temper and tone down their progressive views that they brought in the wake of Watergate, and their reform views took a back seat to business as usual.
Do you think there will be a problem, or will it be a benefit or a plus, the fact that they are so strongly tied to their fiscal responsibility goals and the fact that they are for no new taxes and for reining in government spending? We know a lot of difficult choices are going to have to be made in Washington this year or in the coming years when it comes to debt and deficit. If they aren't willing to compromise on any of those principles, we know both sides are going to have to give up things they care about to get something done. How do you think the Tea Party will factor into that compromise or lack of compromise?
I think they're going to hit a brick wall very quickly. You could end all the domestic programs and still not balance the budget unless you address some of the tough issues like defense spending, like the wars that we've had in Iraq and Afghanistan without raising taxes. I think you're going to find many of these fresh, young, new, energized elected officials get depressed by the fact that their interest in controlling federal spending is going to hit the wall of existing programs that are difficult to change. Social Security, Medicare, defense expenditures, which are at the largest portion of the federal government's expenditures.
All right, former Congressman Bob Edgar, thank you so much for your time and Happy New Year, sir.